Tomorrow morning, we will find out if a possible plea deal will become a reality in the murders of 4 University of Idaho students. King 5 learned from multiple sources close to the case that the victims' families received 2 letters, one laying out the terms, another saying the suspect, Brian Kohberger, accepted the deal. The terms of the proposed plea deal include he must plead guilty to all counts. He must waive all rights to appeal. The plea would be life without parole in exchange for taking the death penalty off the table. From those letters sent to the families, we get an idea of what is in the deal, but tonight there are many questions about what will happen in that Idaho courtroom tomorrow. Joining us right now in studio is former King County Superior Court Judge Timothy Bradshaw. Judge, great to see you again.
Likewise.
Let's start with what would motivate prosecutors to make this sort of plea deal when you see all of the evidence that is available in this case?
Sure. There's a myriad of reasons, frankly. One is the evidence itself. I'm sure that from the outside it looks like a very strong case, but there's no case, and particularly in a criminal court, no case is a slam dunk. So sometimes prosecutors get concerned that they have to prove their case beyond a reasonable doubt, which is the highest standard in law, to a unanimous jury. So sometimes they view it with some skepticism or maybe some cold feet. Second would be if they see this as an opportunity to provide closure to the victim's family. And with closure, provide the beginning of some healing.
And to perhaps allow them to avoid a really lengthy and painful trial.
Exactly. And the sooner you can get that resolution and the finality of that conviction, which you wouldn't have on an elongated appeal, that could prove attractive too.
From the defendant's point of view, why would you accept a deal like this?
So sort of the other side of the evidence coin. So the defense attorneys may be looking at this and be concerned. And it's good to appreciate the difference between a hung jury and an acquittal. So say the defense attorneys were able to create enough doubt in which the final verdict was 11-1, or 1-11 for that matter. That doesn't mean the defendant walks out of the courtroom free. That's not an acquittal. That's a hung jury in which everything would start anew. So they'd be in no better position in that regard. Additionally, it may be the defendant's decision and not the attorney's. That final decision is the defendant's, not theirs. For all we know, this is over their objection.
Thanks for clarifying that, because I think a lot of people have wondered,
Yeah. A third reason, and I would think this would be one of the great reasons to be a public defender or defense attorney, is you get to save your client's life. That would seem pretty attractive.
Because as we've mentioned, this takes the death penalty off the table.
Exactly.
There are a lot of questions surrounding a motive in this case, and with this plea deal, does that take our ability to find out a motive off the table?
It may. One thing a trial would have provided was an answer, to the extent the evidence could reveal that. Now, whether that answer is satisfactory, whether you hear the reasons from a deranged mind about doing something like a quadruple homicide, whether that's ever going to be acceptable, certainly to the victim's family, I would doubt. But certainly a trial, I think, would lay those things bare, whereas we're not sure now. It is possible, I'll note, that the prosecuting attorney here made it a condition of this plea that there be a detailed statement about the crimes. That's one thing we'll be looking for tomorrow.
And in terms of some of the information that has been withheld from the gag order, could any of that come to light?
I would want to see the gag order and what the duration is of the sealing. And what we do know is part of the basis for the sealing itself is the trial. You don't want prejudicial publicity to taint the jurors. Well, if this plea happens tomorrow and it's accepted by the court, well, that's no longer a concern. In Washington State, we have a very robust open courts policy that's even embedded in our Constitution. So we would be releasing things far more than most states. I know that.
Judge, we could talk for hours, but they're starting to wrap us up. I want to ask you one last very important question. When could we see sentencing if this plea deal is accepted by the judge tomorrow? What's the timeline here if this plea deal goes through?
Great question, and that remains, to the best of my knowledge, an unknown. Another thing we'll be looking for tomorrow. I can tell you in Washington State, King County certainly, in no way would sentencing be tomorrow directly after the change of plea hearing. That would be far into the future to allow the victims to catch their breath, to create their own presentations to the court about their loved ones, the defendant to choose whether he wishes to give an allocution, which is his statement about the crimes, to the court. So I'll be surprised if we go to sentencing tomorrow, but I've been surprised before.
It's not impossible.
Correct.
Okay. Former King County Superior Court Judge Timothy Bradshaw, thank you for being here. Thanks for your analysis and joining us. We're going to have much more coverage for you. King 5 will be at the Kohberger hearing in Boise tomorrow. And right now, you can read everything we know already about this plea deal by texting the word DEAL to 206-448-4545.